works with the communities, it works with the government, because the government is such a key stakeholder. If we have achieved any success in the past few decades, it is because the government has stepped in. They have taken cognizance of the fact that the schools are not working, access is difficult, health centers are not working, the systems for trafficking and protection and all of that are not in place, and they actually listen to us. They listen to us because we bring evidence of it. So we're not just going there and saying it's coming from my heart. It is not. If I need to establish that there is malnutrition among certain communities, I have to show that. I have to plot that child and say, this is the degree of stunting, this is the degree of wasting, this is the degree of malnutrition. If you can up the food at the Anganwadi centers, there will be a change, and based on that, in fact, even here, the government orders come in to increase the food content of children, which has significantly brought up the levels of nutrition in states, right? So we have moved. Now again, to give you examples of, let's say, so as I said, we went on to the rights-based mode. We also started saying, what exactly is sustainability, right? Everyone, virtually everyone you speak to in the CSR domain will talk of sustainable solutions. But I'm sure that my understanding of sustainable solutions and your understanding of sustainable solutions are very different. To give you an example, when we started working more than maybe 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago at Mehboob Nagar in a project with an organization called SVK, the level of immunization was almost zero, right? So I went back there a couple of years and I asked them, and I said, right now the level of immunization is 98%. So now I know that I can move out of immunization. I don't have to do anything about immunization. Right? But what exactly? So the thing is, for immunization, let's say, one is the doctors can go to the community and get the child immunized, or you can have the health workers or other health professionals bring the parents into the primary health center or do the immunization at their doorstep. But the question that I asked them was, in how many cases did you actually intervene? And they said only 2. Which means that the message of immunization has gone down to every person in the community. Now tomorrow, if I were to walk out of that project, you can be sure that the children will be immunized. You see, so that for me becomes the definition of sustainability, right? So this is the space. So in doing so, however, it is not a simple process, right? What you're actually doing is you're looking at the child, and you're taking the child and you're looking at the universe of the child. And that starts with not just the parents, the extended family. You're looking also at the teachers, the systems that go around the child, the health systems, the education systems. You're also looking at the negative stakeholders, but believe you me, what we have seen is that when we try getting 30 children enrolled in higher secondary school, there are 300 taken away as trafficking. So there is a very strong force out there, which is the mafia, which plays and which is highly organized. You have to take into account that they will also play a role. You have to understand that there are systems out there which the government looks at. So as it was said, the government systems and policies actually provide a framework, and they are very good. It is a question of how much do you do to activate those systems? In doing so, is the community that you're working with, is their sense of entitlement the same as ours? When I say entitlement, it's just this. It's just that if, for example, in our schools, the teacher does not teach well, we will all probably complain, go to the principal or talk to the other parents and say, look, this is not right, there's corporal punishment. But this doesn't happen in certain communities. They also need to know that I have a sense of entitlement. By being a citizen of this country, I'm supposed to get a quality of service. And it is very possible. And the people who work with us, so for example, there were a lot of huge numbers that came in over here. And PSUs, spend loads of money. For us, our projects are only about 15 to 20 lakhs per project. So we are not talking of very large numbers. But I, for example, and it's not recent though, about a year or two, just to understand what is it that that project brings about, I said, can you quantify? So you've said that so many schools have come up, so many compound walls have come up, so many primary health centers were started, so many sub-centers. I said, can you give me a value to them? Because we never count the value of certain things, right? Actually, there is a value. If you're putting up a house and you're putting up on land, there is a value to it. And this project that we had given some 20-25 lakhs was actually able to generate 30 crores. And which is why I'm saying, even if the figure is not 20,000 crores, even if it is 10,000 crores, if it has a multiplier effect of what your money can do, the money out there is actually humongous. But the way to do it is to actually look at it and identify it and understand the situation and go into it in depth and carefully plan out what exactly are you doing. If I just go and say that I have to take our feticide, what does it mean? How do I stop something like feticide? It happens before the child is born. What does it mean? The prevalence of that practice means there is a system of patriarchy in that. There are pregnant women whom we keep track of. We know that after the first child, the mother typically will go to an astrologer, and the astrologer will say that the sixth child will be a boy. So 2 to 5, typically there will be a feticide. You identify the vulnerable families. You keep track of them, constantly having a conversation with all the women and all the men and all the stakeholders. Create a conversation with the astrologer, because the astrologer will lose money and his trade will go down if women don't come to him. You see, this is a very complex situation, but the point is to identify every part of it and say, how am I going to address this? Do I have the skill set? When you talk of child labor, do I have the skill set to bring the child labor back and rehabilitate it? Maybe not. My skill set rests in prevention, where I can bring in the value of education, I can make access to school possible, I can make it available, I can try enhancing the quality of education in the school. So I'm going to fight it from there. I may not have the wherewithal to fight it with the mafia. Do you understand? So you need to understand and plot these strategies out. Think long term, as I said. We need to think really long term. And in doing this, what happens is that we work with donor communities, and there's a lot that's been spoken about the donor communities and the CSR bill. Our experience with the CSR bill, and I'll tell you the space that I'm coming from, is one is that I think there is a difficulty in even defining the CSR mandate, right? Because if you have 4 people as directors of the board, one would like to help the older people, one would like to help children with disabilities. There is always a conflict of interest, and they're coming from good spaces, right? But for them to arrive at what is to be done, and what is to be done over a period of time, because CSR should not be seen as something where I come in today, okay, so this year I'm working with this particular NGO, next year I'm going to work with another person. It should be something where I do have the big plan at the end of the year or end of so many years and say that in this community or this area, this is the kind of change I will bring. If I'm having a PPP model, as Abhishek said, let's not duplicate the systems. There is a model, let's not set up a parallel system, but let's see how can we supplement and what is not there, right? So there is a problem in the CSR arriving at what they want to do. There is, I'm afraid to say it, but a corporate mentality, as you said, that you need results quarter on quarter. We're talking of social transformation, right? It takes a little while. There may be something that you can showcase a quarter, but actual social transformation might come at the end of a couple of years, 3 years, 5 years. It depends on the nature of the problem, right? So that mandate has to be fixed. Then the other thing that we find is the geographies. I know that there is a mandate of saying that you need to work in the communities where you have affected them the most, so people who are close by, or where I can have volunteering opportunities. But for organizations like CRY, we actually find it very difficult in that CSR space, simply because, as I said, I have decided that 640 districts have been mapped. Now, there are many districts where there are no corporates, the corporates will not get visibility, there is no other large concern. So what do? I find myself very alone in that space. Because there are no people who come forward to help me there. Which is why for me it is better going to the individual who understands me better rather than going to a corporate who is bound by certain norms. And I honestly feel sometimes that that norm of it being right outside your doorstep would go away. Right? Because the issues that are there, because then you can only do so much, because all the slums near our place are all taken over by corporates. But what about people who are further away? Right? What about people who are affected by drought, for example? You see, what happens to their children? It just definitely get impacted. So that is something which, we find a little constraining in that sense. Or they'll say that we need volunteer engagement. Volunteers will not come to rural areas. Does that mean all projects have to be in urban areas? I don't think so. Right, so these are some places where we kind of struggle with, right? So, and it's not that, and volunteer engagement too. I know that there are certain spaces that people can do. However, sometimes, honestly, it seems tokenistic. It's like I do a few set of classes, there is no commitment, people go off. Do you really want the communities there to be subjected to something like this? I would look at it and say it should be done in a manner which gives respect to the communities that you're working with, where you can show your commitment, saying that I will come back to you month on month, week after week, and not come and do something tokenistic and go back. Because I do see a bit of that also happen, right? But the CSR bill, it's definitely brought into space a lot of people who wanted to do good. They have come on and said, okay, this is my chance to actually do it, right? And it is that opportunity, because sometimes I think a lot of us see that on my own I'm constrained to do something, but under the CSR bill, it gives me that opportunity to really turn around things if I set my mind to it. Now, what can organize? So I've just gone about to say, what can organizations like CRY bring up onto the table? One is, of course, working with the grassroots. We get a very nuanced understanding of it. As I said, let's take child labor. Even in the definition of child labor, I mean, for example, you have, let's take a place like Salem where the children go at 3 in the morning, they pluck flowers, and then they go back to school. They're not even classified as child labor because technically they're going to school. So they're called working children. But these working children, for example, they go before school and after school and spend about 8 hours in the fields plucking flowers. And the reason they pluck flowers is because the smaller the better. It's basically age 5 to 9. Is because of their height and the deftness of their fingers. You see, so it makes a lot of sense for them because they're very gentle and very deft. It makes a lot of sense for people to take these children on board. And it affects their studies, so they're not able to concentrate on class. They've left without having anything to eat. So obviously results become bad. Right? So for each industry, for each area, we have an understanding of the situation and we need to bring that understanding on board. What we do is, because we deal with a gamut of, we also use many tools. We do a bit of research, we do, community-based conversations, we deal with the system, we deal with, let's say, if it's education, with the district officials, with the state officials, at all levels. So the government is not just the national government, you're talking at every level. There is a government department or a body, and there are a number of schemes, right, which can be optimized. So that is the whole space that we work, and all the successes, because we are in the rights-based approach, we work in that, we actually see the way it works, and it works. A lot of the successes are because of that. When working with so this is so now what happens is that what we do, when we work with the government, for example, when we work with issues, we also bring a convergence of departments. Now, for example, we are working in the area of trafficking, let's say. Trafficking involves many things, right? It's about the child not going to school. What do you do after the age of 14? Because the RT supports you only till 14. So 15 to 18, what do you do? So you find a lot of child marriages, child labor, trafficking happening in that age, right? So we need to look at, let's say, activating the education system so that the children go to school. Then you're dealing with the traffickers, which means that you're dealing with the police, you're dealing with the juvenile justice boards. So there has to be a convergence of all of them coming online and saying that we together are working on this particular issue in this particular district, right? So we bring in that kind of a convergence. We bring in a heightened consciousness because sometimes people are not aware, a lot of things are done with the goodness of heart, but sometimes I think in the long run they could even harm people. So bringing in an awareness of all the communities, and that's the other job that we do. So going forward, I was just thought I would, so when we put things together, the request or the ask is really to see things from a very holistic kind of a perspective, to see what are the different stakeholders or the systems or the government, how can we work together, and how can we together empower communities to understand that they stand up for themselves and also fight for themselves. Thank you.
Any questions? Address towards ma'am.
Thank you, madam. You've given an entirely different perspective, and CRY has been doing human service, you know that. And high time that we realize the importance of social responsibility. Of course, we have been doing. We had the concept of dharmika samsthas, right from our good olden days. The people who had surplus money, always they thought of giving to society back. We get lot from society, let us give it back. That's where it started. But only thing is, making this as a corporate social responsibility, there is various ways of actually helping the society. Large amount of fund available, and we are able to extend our help to the various sections of the society. And like CRY is doing, like our colleagues Sulagna Sarkar, Poonam, they have presented important areas, education, health, right? There are so many issues, but we can provide help in any one of these sections. There are projects which require huge funds, that's where corporates can really do the helping hand, like CRY is doing education, health, etc. We have to go a collaborative mode. Today's session is collaborative mode of doing CSR, I think wonderful. Unless we come together, there will be duplication of work also. That's where we also have to be in touch with the district collector and governmental machinery, state government, central government scheme. Recently, you have seen Minister saying that we have provided so much of support in Tamil Nadu relief operations. The concerned state government is claiming that we have extended the help. Central government is providing, but state government is claiming that we have provided. So like that, there are many schemes where central government is providing through state government. The machinery is state government, again district authorities. So we have to work together so that final beneficiary should be the needy person. Either it may be education or health or infrastructure, rural infrastructure, anything. So thanks once again to Madam for coming to the campus, and also to Mr. Abhishek Ranjan for his valuable time and giving insights on the topic, and also congrats to my colleagues Poonam and Sulagna for making presentation, and I'll hand over the session to Sulagna.
Thank you so much, sir. I now request our convener, Dr. Sulagna ma'am, to present a token of appreciation to our Dean, sir. I request her to please give a token of love to our guest here, Sumayavi ma'am.